Hey everyone, I hope everyone is having a great week and a great day, and welcome back to the stream. I didn't have one last week because of the holiday here in the United States, and I'm not going to have one next week either because of a different conflict. But I'm excited to get this one going. I got a couple things I want to do today, and so I think it'll be a lot of fun, so I'm looking forward to it. First thing that we're going to do is I want to take a look at some monster stats. I was looking through some monster manuals last week sometime, and it got me thinking about how stats have changed over the years. I might have been watching a video or something and looking at some of the 5th edition stats and comparing that to the 4th edition stats. And then I was going back and kind of peeking at some of the even older versions than that to see how they've changed. And I thought it would be a fun exercise to just kind of do on the stream together. So I've queued up some monster stats. I figured I'd focus on the goblins, and we would just kind of look to see how the goblins have evolved over time, going back all the way to original Dungeons and Dragons and looking at the different incarnations over the years all the way up to today, just to see how they've been presented differently, and not necessarily to rate them and say this was better than that one or anything like that. It's just kind of more about comparing the differences. So I thought it would be an interesting exercise, so we'll take a look at that. And then once we do that, we will play through the next encounter of Keep on the Shadowfell. So I've got that one queued up. I kind of scrambled the last minute to put it together, so hopefully I didn't overlook something as I was doing that. But I am excited to get started and see how it goes. So if you want to play along with Keep on the Shadowfell, the adventure module is free from DriveThruRPG, so the link is down in the description. If you want to click that, go to DriveThruRPG. You can get Keep on the Shadowfell for free from there, and the characters that we're using are part of that module, so you can get them right from there. I have some different variations of those characters that we're actually using. The stats are all the same for the most part, but I created the sheets where I split them out and put the characters' names on there along with the token that we're using on the screen in the encounter map. If you want to get those sheets, which are the ones we're actually going to be using here, that link is also down in the description on my website. You can go ahead and download those. Again, the stats are exactly the same, but there's just a couple different changes to some of the other stuff on the sheets if you're interested. So if you want to get those, please do go ahead and do that. I am not always very good when we're playing through the encounter of putting the character sheet up on the screen as we're talking about what the character should do. So if you want to play along, it might be better to have that sheet in front of you so you can look to see what options we have for the characters. So just something to keep in mind. I try to put the sheet up when we're talking about what the characters should do, but sometimes I forget. So it's just something to think about. But with that, let's go ahead and jump right in and get started with it. If you like these live streams, if you like my other videos, please do click like on this and any other videos that you're watching. Subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support the channel in other ways, check out the description. There's links down there that you can use. There are affiliate links to some of my different places that sell things like DriveThruRPG and Humble Bundles and things. So if you plan on getting some stuff from those places and you want to help me out in the process, it doesn't cost anything extra to you, but by using those links, a little bit of that comes over my way to help support the channel. So just give that some thought if you want to support the channel in other ways. So I would appreciate it. And with that, let's go ahead and jump right into taking a look at the monster stats. So, like I said, I was going through some more recent monster stats, particularly 4th edition, and looking at the stat blocks and how they're formatted. And I was noticing how, like, even in 4th edition, when they got to Monster Manual 3, they changed the format a little bit to kind of group things. And that kind of got me thinking about some of the other stat blocks that you have in 5th edition and such. So I figured let's go take a look at back at the beginning and let's see how it's changed over time. So let me flip over here and we'll take a look at it. So this is going back all the way to the beginning, the original Dungeons and Dragons that was released in 1974. This book was a set of three 3 booklets. I believe it was 3 booklets that had basically your player's guide, and then this one had monsters and treasure, and then there was a reference guide as well. They were very short booklets, and so the information was minimalistic. And but this is where it all got started. So you know, if you look here, you can see that there's not a lot of information provided for a goblin. You've got there was a table that listed all the monsters, and there was maybe a couple dozen monsters in there. And it indicates, you know, so it says, you know, what their armor class is and what their movement is in inches and what their hit die is. Obviously the rules have changed over time with different things, so some of these don't necessarily apply. And then it indicates what kind of treasure you get if you defeat a goblin as well. So, which is kind of interesting, so that they standardize some of the treasure that you might have. And then on the following pages after that table, then you got a little more detail about the different monsters. And as you see, there's just like one paragraph indicating that they're small, and it references them from the Chainmail book, which is what Dungeons and Dragons was based on. So you kind of needed to refer back to that material, the wargaming book that they had. Indicates that they see well in darkness or in dim light, but they get a penalty for their attack and their morale dice if they're in full daylight. They will attack dwarves on sight, and their hit dice must always equal at least 1 pip. I don't know exactly what that means. I don't have a lot of experience with original D&D, so if anybody's got that, I'd love to hear from them. But that's kind of it. Then there's a composition of force. When in their lair, the Goblin King will be found. He will fight as a hobgoblin in all respects. He will be surrounded by a body of from 5 to 30 guards as hobgoblins also. So kind of almost like, which we'll see a little later with 4th edition, where they had some encounter tables for each monster. It's telling you that how you could play this goblin. There's going to be a Goblin King if they're in their lair, and they're going to be surrounded by this number of other goblins. So and that's pretty much the extent of the information that you get in original Dungeons and Dragons for a goblin. Pretty basic. The stat block is really basic. You're looking at just the armor class, and then it indicates the hit dice that would determine their hit points and their movement. So there's really not much else for the monsters. Now, obviously, if somebody has some more experience with original D&D and wants to share some of that, I'd love to hear some of that down in the comments to kind of educate us on how that really worked. But that's what we had for original D&D. So that was 1974. And then by 1977, we had advanced D&D. And so if we take a look at what we had there, now you can see that we get much more information in a stat block for a goblin in advanced D&D. So they definitely took this, and you can see the amount of detail. So the frequency is listed as uncommon, number appearing. I don't know exactly. That was in the original D&D also. So again, not being terribly familiar with all of the rules from those editions, 40 to 400. We have an armor class now of 6. We've got a speed of 6 inches again. Hit dice is 1 to 7 hit points. The percent in the lair, and then you still get the treasure type. That was something from original D&D as well. And then damage, attack per attack, special attack, special defenses. It says nil for both of those. So, you know, some of these stats would mean something for other monsters, but not necessarily for the goblins. So, hey, Trinell, welcome back. Glad to have you here. So then we get into a little more lore than certainly what we had in original D&D. So it goes into they have a tribal society, and and then it kind of continues on that. Let me shift my screen here so I can get a better look at this. Excuse me for just a second. I want to try to get a better view so I can read through some of the stats on here. So tribal society, the strong ruling everybody else, and then they have a Goblin King, which was mentioned. Which, by the way, we also have some artwork now, which we didn't have as much artwork in the original version of the game. So I'm trying to figure out why I'm not getting any chat messages here. It's interesting that I'm not. Oh, there they are. Finally, they weren't showing up on my screen, so I apologize for that. I was trying to sort out that, but I think I got that working now. So, and then it indicates, okay, so here we got for number appearing. For every 40 goblins encountered, there will be a leader and 4 assistants who are equal to orcs, each having 7 hit points and attacking as monsters with a full hit die. It's this type of thing that probably makes sense if you're familiar with advanced D&D. Not being as familiar with those rules myself, some of the stuff is not necessarily how we do it in the later versions. So, but there's definitely a lot more math and stuff to figure out how many goblins you're going to be working with, what type of goblins it's going to be, and who's in charge. And then, so that you're going to follow there's a sub chief and 2 to 8 guards, each fighting as hobgoblins and having 8 hit points with armor cost. So a lot of detail about what your encounters are going to look like. So, as you're DMing a game and you're going to have these goblins, and, the same would hold true for other monsters, that, you've got to kind of understand all these details of what is that going to be when you encounter that goblin, and you encounter several goblins, and then you eventually get to a goblin king, and who's going to be around that goblin king and what environments are they going to be in, and you got a goblin chief and then has this many bodyguards, and then there's different percentages depending on what types of goblins they are. And now we've got some information about what they're typically armed with, and so anyway, lots more information here than what we had in the original D&D. So you can tell that by the time of advanced D&D, they had decided to expand on the monsters and create some lore for them. So that's pretty interesting. So then after advanced D&D, then we got into basic D&D, and I know that there's a couple variations of basic D&D, but I'm going to go with this one here is the one I have, so I'm going to use that one. And, we kind of, I don't want to say we reduced the amount of information. Maybe we kind of tightened up the how it was presented to make it a little clearer. This is the basic edition, so you kind of really streamline how it's being presented so it's easier to play, and you don't have as much detail that the DM has to deal with. Again, now we actually have a nice stat block there. Armor class, hit die, their movement is listed as feet, and they got a weapon, 1 to 6 damage by weapon. How many are going to be appearing? There's morale, and it says they are small, incredibly ugly, human-like race. Their skin is pale, earthy color. So you get more descriptions now into what they actually look like. They have somewhat rat-like eyes, live underground. Well-developed infravision, heat sensing sight, and again, hate dwarfs, which something goes back to original D&D, that they will attack them on sight. 20% chance that when goblins are encountered, 1 of every 4 will be riding a dire wolf. So you get some more information about how encounters are put together. If you're doing a random encounter, you can kind of decide there's a 20% chance that 1 out of every 4 is going to be riding a dire wolf. So a little bit of math that you can have to do there. The Goblin King would have 15 hit points and fights as a 3 hit die monster and gains +1 on damage rolls. So it's, I think you see, with all of the info that was being provided with advanced D&D, you can see how they really kind of tightened it up here when they put together the basic rules, and you got a nice tight stat block with some background, a little description of them, and then kind of how you would use them in an encounter. And you still have that treasure information as well, indicating how much treasure they would get. And then we get to the BECMI rules, which I believe, if I'm correct, this was like 1983. This one is pretty similar to what you had in the basic rules. So the format's a little different in how they presented it, but I think a lot of the text is nearly identical. So it's so again, human-like race, small, very ugly. I think that's exactly verbatim what was in the basic rules. Yeah, chalky or tan. Their eyes are red and glow when there's a little light. They live underground. So a lot of the same stuff, but again, you know, so you kind of just maybe just a little bit of refinement here as you got into the Beckme rules. They just took those basic rules and tweaked them a little bit, not a whole lot different. But the next one is where we're going to see some big changes. Now we get into second edition, which came out in 1989, and this is where we really expanded on our monster stats. The Monstrous Manual from second edition, and I know this cover is from the reprint. It's not the actual original second edition cover, but we had really good artwork for all of the monsters. Now, every single page in the monster manual had a color drawing of the different monsters, and you can see that you had a full page of information about the monster, which so we're not just dealing with a few stats and a little bit of information about what they look like and how you might encounter them. Now we're talking about actual, you know, real in-depth information about them. So it's pretty big change from what we had before. And so just taking a look at what this is, you can see we've got again, small humanoids, merely pests. They have flat faces, so way more description than what you had in the other ones, where it basically just described them as ugly. And now it talks about what kind of speech they have and what languages they can speak. And then in combat, it mentions again, which I think we also had in original D&D, that they don't like sunlight, and you get a -1 on their attack rolls. They're known to carry short swords as a second weapon, usually armored in leather. All the leaders may have chain or even plate mail, so getting a lot more detail. And then a whole section here talking about their society, which, you know, kind of was touched on in the early ones, in the earlier editions, but this one now they expand on it even more. Only leaders have separate living spaces. All their possessions are carried with them. Typical goblin has 4 to 40 adult male goblin tribe, has 4 to 400 adult male warriors. For every 40 goblins, there will be a leader and 4 assistants. So lots of detail about how their society is structured. There's a sub chief with bodyguards, which we covered on that in the previous editions as well. 25% chance that 10% of their force will be mounted upon huge wargs, and have another 10 to 40 unmounted wargs with them. 60% chance that the lair is guarded by 5 to 30 such wolves. So this, I don't have as much experience with second edition, but I know from looking through the books and reading up on a lot of the stuff, you know, a lot of these percentages, you use the percentage die a lot more in second edition than you do in more recent editions. And you can see that here. I mean, you got a 25% chance that there's a 10% of their force will be mounted on wargs. So you got a couple percentages there just in that section alone. There's a pecking order in the tribe. And then, they even got ecology. Goblins live only 50 years or so. They don't need to eat much. They spoil their habitat, driving game from it, depleting the area. So really, second edition took this to the next level and really expanded on the information that you're going to get for each of the different monsters. This is just a goblin, but the same is true for the other monsters in this book. Lots of information that you can use to plan your encounters and to make them really interesting. I mean, all that stuff about what the chieftains and stuff and the sub leaders and how many goblins you're going to have, and that they're going to be divided up into these sub tribes. Really great information that you could see how it originated in original D&D and kind of evolved to this point in second edition where they kind of fully fleshed it out. So I think it's pretty interesting. So, hey, Flint Fireforge, welcome. And Ryan, glad to have you here. So we are continuing our journey through the evolution of monster stat blocks over the years. So that was second edition. And then obviously a big change in D&D was third edition and 3.5. So we'll take a look at 3.5 here. So the goblin here was split over a couple pages. And you could see that we've got artwork again. The books for 3.5 were very much updated from what we were typically getting prior to that. So there's a lot more stylistic stuff in there with the way that the material is being presented. And so you can see that here. And a lot of this stuff is built on the same material that we've got. So goblins are tribal. Their leaders are generally the biggest, strongest. They have almost no concept of privacy, living and sleeping in large common areas. So all that lore, but you can see the stat block, on the left side of that page. There's a lot of information about the armor class is divided out by what types of armor they have. And now in 3rd edition, we have touch and we have flat-footed. We have a base attack. We have grapple. They have an attack with a morning star. They've got a full attack. They've got special attacks. We got dark vision. There's saves. So all those new rules that we saw in 3rd edition, now we have stat blocks for that. I'll be honest, I'm not necessarily a fan of how the stats are presented in the 3rd edition book. They're kind of hard to read because they're presented just in this along with all of the narrative and the description of the monster. And to me, it makes it kind of hard to see the different stats. And so I like it in even in the earlier editions, where you actually had the stats kind of broken out into isolated into a block of some sort. And then certainly in the more recent editions, that's how they do it. 3rd edition, they kind of presented them just, they get lost to me in the text here. So, but continuing on, you got the organization, and there's with, again, how you're going to find them. It also mentions how they're going to be on warg mounts, and there's going to be tribes of between 40 and 400. It indicates that they get standard treasure. So it's, just a lot, you can see, again, it builds on now 2nd edition. The 2nd edition really expanded that information. You got a lot more substance with the monster than you did in the prior editions. And then 3rd edition expanded on that even more. You've got the section on Goblin Society. And then there's even a section that continues on the next page where it talks about goblins as characters. So if you wanted to play a goblin as a character, it has information about how you could do that, which is definitely something that I don't believe was in the prior editions. So another step forward in the evolution of the characters. So I'll have to spend more time looking at the 3rd edition and the stat blocks and see if that's something that, a lot of times if that's what you start with, then it's fine and you're used to it. If you start with something different and you see something else that's presented differently, then it might take some getting used to. So, so that's what we have for 3rd edition. And then we get to 4th edition, and let me flip over to that one, because 4th edition went, and theirs is very interesting. So so far, 1st edition, you had basically 2 little paragraphs. You had one line in on a table with their stats, and then you had a 1 or 2 sentences kind of describing them. When you got to, that was original D&D. When you got to advanced D&D and the basic and the BECMI, then you started getting some actual real meaningful blocks of information. You got a stat block and then more information that you could use with some background and some descriptions. 2nd edition obviously took that to the next level. 3rd edition expanded on that. 4th edition then expanded even more. Before we had a couple pages. Now we've got numerous pages with blocks. Now the goblins in 4th edition, they lump together a couple different things. You've got bugbears in here, and you've also got hobgoblins mixed in as part of the goblin race. So there's a little more here than you might have in the other ones, because hobgoblins were listed as a separate monster in some of the other ones. So this one, but you can see you've got the lore with the background of what they are and where they live and kind of their societal structure. So all that same stuff that we were seeing. And here we give in 4th edition, it has the lore, which this is one of the things I love in 4th edition, where it's pieces of information and tells you how difficult it might be for somebody to know that information. So you actually get within the monster manual and the stat blocks, you actually have some it's not for the dungeon master doesn't necessarily have to decide. I mean, the dungeon master could decide to just give this information to the party if they want, but it gives a little bit of a guide if you're with a party encountering a goblin, well, what would they know? And you would need to roll certain levels to figure this information out. So I like that that's provided here. And there's some sidebars with information as well. And then we get to the stat blocks, and this is, I think, this is like my favorite stat block. I do like the Monster Manual 3 stat block a little better. I like how they did change it, where they structured and grouped things by standard actions and traits and minor actions and things. So I think that added a little extra, but I like the way these are set out. So everything that the monster can do is right there. You got all their hit points, armor class, fortitude, reflex, will, and then you've got all their different abilities that they can use, and their ability scores. Everything that you would need is in this nice box. It's easy to read. So I really like the 4th edition ones. And then if you see that each one of these has a little bit of a description. So there's there's not just a goblin like we had in original D&D and later editions. There's many different goblins that have a different role that they would perform. So a goblin cutter is a minion, so very low level, just kind of the pawn at the front that's going to be abused. But then a black blade is a lurker who's going to be sneaking around. And then if we go to the next page, you can see we've got all these other ones. We've got warriors, we've got hexers, we've got sharpshooters, skull cleavers. So you've got a lot of different goblins that you can use depending on what you want in your encounter. So it almost replaces, in 2nd edition and the earlier editions, that whole thing where you had those percentages where you said there's this percent chance that it's going to be this or that. Some of that is kind of taken by just saying, we're just going to make a different goblin, rather than having these things that determine how the goblins might be, what types of goblins you might have. We'll just make a bunch of different goblins, and you can decide how you want to do it, so that you get the right mix for the encounter that you're trying to build. And and then it extends out. So then, like I mentioned, so then you get hobgoblins also. So they are included within the goblin section of the monster manual, is all the different hobgoblins. And again, there's a little bit of background on each one, and then you get your stat blocks for it. And then you get to my favorite thing. If you remember in those early editions, it had a thing that said how many you might encounter at any given time, and there's this percent chance that you would encounter this many. Here in 4th edition, you get encounter groups. Which for the goblins, it's one of the monsters that has encounter groups for lots of different levels. Not all the monsters are this detailed. This one happens to have a lot of stuff. So you got it's like 10 different encounter groups here to cover levels 1 through 9. And you can, so if you're a DM trying to put together an encounter and you've got a level 3 party, it tells you exactly what it's going to be. The same thing could be said from the earlier editions, where you were, saying there's this percent chance that it's going to be this and stuff. So similar type of thing, just a different approach to it. It's one of my favorite things in 4th edition. I think it made it really easy and just kind of fits into the fact that 4th edition is a game that was written for dungeon masters to make their lives easier. So I really like that. So 4th edition, I know I'm biased, but 4th edition I think is like my favorite in how it was presented. And I do like how you can see this evolution. You can see a lot of things here in 4th edition that built on all the things that happened in the prior editions. And, we went from that little stat block and couple sentences now to like 10 pages worth of information about goblins and different stats and different roles and everything. And so it's really, really interesting. But we're not done there. There's one more left, and that is 5th edition. So taking a look at what we have here, in 5th edition, you simplified a little bit. We went back to having 2 different goblins. Hobgoblins were split out again as a separate monster in the monster manual. So we get a goblin and a goblin boss, and then you still get a little bit of a background into how they operate and what their layers look like and stuff like that. So kind of took a step back to in the amount of detail that it's providing, and simplifying some of the stuff that they can do. I like the 4th edition stat block. The 5th edition stat blocks. I think they're fine. I think they're presented very clear. It's easy to find most everything that you need in these stat blocks as well. You could tell that with 4th edition, it was much more functional because you have these text boxes with just some color coding. 5th edition is a little more stylistic in how they present it, but I think it's easy to read and easy to follow. So I'm good with those two. I think they're well done. But you can definitely see how they kind of, built on everything, streamlined it again. It's almost like when we went from advanced D&D to those basic editions where they said, okay, we got a lot of information here. Let's kind of dial that back and just get the essentials into it. And they just streamlined it again. So I think it was, I think they did a pretty good job. I'm good with what they had in 5th edition. So there you go. That's our walk through the monsters, and how they've evolved over the years. I mean, it was an interesting exercise for me because I always like seeing how things have changed over the lifespan of D&D and how they've changed a lot, but at the same time, you can always see those common threads that connect back to the original, and some of those things that were made 50 years ago are still in play today. So it's always interesting to see that. So yeah, I know Matt Colville has a lot of videos where he talks about 4th edition and some of the great things in it. And that's what, for me, I think every edition of it has some really cool things that they introduced. And so I always like it when those things make their way into later versions, because, that's the idea is, you try some different things and some things work well, some things don't. But you take those good things and you move them forward into the next editions, and just try to keep building a game that's just better and better and better. There's certainly things from 4th edition that did not make it into 5th edition that I wish did, but I see some of those things now in the new version that will be 5.5 or D&D 2024, whatever we're going to call it. And then the Tales of the Valiant has some of the 4th edition stuff in it as well. So I always like to see that it's not gone. It may have been ahead of its time and wasn't popular when it came out, but I'm glad to see that it's not just completely lost, that some of that stuff is making it forward. So for monster lore, I honestly, I think anything from 2nd edition on is pretty good. And I'd have to look at them a lot more closely to see which one I think is best as far as providing monster lore. The versions prior to that, they were just kind of toying with it. They kind of were providing a little bit. There's not really lore. There's more just kind of descriptions of the monsters. 2nd edition, you actually got some information about their society and how they were structured, and the environments they lived in. So now you're starting to get into some lore. 3rd edition definitely built on that, and got to a point where you can actually play that type of monster. 4th edition, has an actual lore section in it for where there's specific information that a character might know. So I think I think pretty much from 2nd edition on, they've really been building on it. I'd be hard pressed to say which one I think is best. I think they just took it to the next level with 2nd edition and have been building on it ever since. So, which is how it should be. I like when they do that. Yeah, so Nick, that's my thought as well. I think I might have even made a video on that Pathfinder 2nd edition really takes a lot of stuff from 4th edition. The feats, it's something that always interests me, and I hear all the complaints about 4th edition and the powers, and it was like how that seemed to be not a thing that people liked. They didn't like having these powers that you had to pick and keep track of. But in reality, I mean, any class feature could be rewritten and called a power, because that's basically what they are. It's just how it's presented. In fourth edition, they went with a more structured approach and presented it like, I think someone else in a chat or a couple streams ago referred to it as like a technical manual. It was, if you were writing a technical manual for an IT department, that's kind of how fourth edition came across, is that it was designed for someone who's going to be running this game to try to make things as clear as possible. And that's what it accomplished. But you take those same things and you just rewrite them more as a narrative style, as opposed to in that structured style. And it's the same stuff. You're just presenting it in a different way. But when you got to second edition Pathfinder, they took and made all these feats. Every single level you're picking, whether it's a racial feat or a class feat or a general feat or whatever they were, they're powers. You can call them whatever you want, but when you look at what they do, they're basically powers. They're doing the same things that powers would do. And so it's just interesting how, some people don't want to admit that there was anything good in fourth edition, but they'll love Pathfinder second edition. I have nothing wrong with Pathfinder second edition. I don't have a problem with any of Pathfinder versions. I think it's interesting to see what's the word I'm looking for? The DNA. Oh, you used the word there, Nick. You used it. DNA from fourth edition in Pathfinder second edition. And I think we're going to see the same thing in Tales of the Valiant, and we're going to see it even in the D&D 2024. I think, they're going to take these things that were good, and we'll realize, hey, that was something that we had in fourth. That's pretty cool. So, yeah, if they had called powers, if you hadn't called them powers, I think that was what people seem to get hung up on, is that was the whole video gamey thing that people complained about, and maybe by calling them powers, it made people think they were playing a card game or they were playing a video game. But I've gone through a few of things in like fifth edition and rewritten like sneak attack as a power and rewritten rage as a power. It's just semantics. The bottom line is, you're talking about, it's some sort of mechanical thing that a character gets to do. And if I write it this way and call it a feat, that's okay. But if I write it this way and call it a power, then suddenly that's too much. Now it's not D&D anymore, and you've crossed a line. So I never understood that, because it's the same stuff. And I just feel like fourth edition gave you so many more options of what you could do, and so much more variety in your characters as you leveled your characters up, that I don't think you get in fifth edition. When you level up in fifth edition, here's what you get, and a couple levels you get to make choices, but a lot of levels you just get this thing, and that's it. And you don't get to, the agency of the player is diminished, because you're not actually able to make choices for your character. You're just getting the next thing. In most cases, I'm not sweepingly saying that it's across the board, but there's a lot of levels where you're just doing the next thing. Whereas with fourth edition and with Pathfinder second edition, you're getting to make choices along the way. And so we might all start out as level 1 fighters, but by the time we get to level 5, level 6, we've made such different choices. Our characters are vastly different from each other, and can do way different things, versus if we all started out as fighters in fifth edition, then it's likely that by the time we get to fifth or sixth level, we're going to basically be the same. We might have chosen a different path at third level, but a lot of the options we're going to get are going to be the same thing. So, at least in my opinion, again, I know I don't want to diminish, fifth edition. I think it's a fine game. It's more a case of, I just don't understand the disdain for fourth edition, because I feel like it does a lot of the things that people complain about don't exist in fifth edition. It's like, well, fourth edition did that, but nobody was happy about it. So I don't understand. So yeah, I mean, either it's just an ability that the character has. How it's just how you present it. It doesn't matter. It's still, I mean, everything in these games turns out to, what are the differences? You're going to give somebody a +2. You're going to give somebody advantage or disadvantage, or a -1 or a +1d4 or whatever it is. It's the same stuff. There's only so many things that you can give as bonuses and penalties. For characters, you can allow them to shift, you can allow them to jump, you can allow them to, it's the same stuff in all of the different versions of the game. It's just a question of how you presented it. And, some people and honestly, 5th edition is probably as popular as it is because 4th edition was as unpopular as it was, which is unfortunate, because 5th edition, they kind of took the step back towards what 3rd edition was. They took the same approach with things to 3rd edition and cleaned it up and made some tweaks. And because people were so upset with 4th edition, and by the time 5th edition came out, it had been almost 10 years or just over 10 years since 3.5 had come out. So, people that didn't jump to 4th edition were ready for a new version, and people that were fed up with 4th edition were glad to have a new version. And so, if 4th edition wasn't there, then 5th edition would probably just be another version that didn't, was just as good as anything else, but not as well received as it's been. I'm glad to see that the attention on 4th edition has definitely softened, as you say. And my stream a few weeks ago, we went back and looked at reviews of 4th edition, and that came out at the time. And you could see how people at the time, even a year after 4th edition was released, were quite pleased with it. Looking at the reviews, they were happy. I randomly selected those reviews, and they had complaints like you have with any edition, but generally they were actually pleased and they enjoyed playing the game. And looking, as I've been going through the books that were released over time, I think they were making changes to 4th edition to address a lot of the concerns. And if only they could have just continued on with it and made an actual 4.5. I mean, I don't know that Essentials falls into the category of being a 4.5, but if you could have really done a release that could have seriously addressed those concerns and everything, then maybe we're actually still talking about 4th edition here, instead of having moved on to 5th edition. But unfortunately, by that point, the ship had sailed. I think it already had this reputation. Somehow, I don't know where that started, and there was no way they were going to recover from it. So, but now we're here, and we can look at it, and people are seeing it for what it is and saying, you know what, the stuff I've heard about it does not match what it actually is. I've actually got a chance to play it, and it's a lot better than what people were saying. So, which is nice, and I'm glad to see a lot of that stuff making it into some of the newer games. So, 4th edition tanked, so 5th edition could rise, and that's kind of how I see it. I think if 4th edition was not looked at so poorly, then people were just clamoring for the new D&D, and so when you 4th edition is doing what it's doing, and people have, for whatever reason, whatever their reasons were, disowning it, and then you announce that you're going to come out with 5th edition, people get really excited. And especially, one of the biggest problems with 4th edition is they didn't do a public playtest. They tried to bring everything in-house, with them. They canceled the license to Dragon and Dungeon Magazine, so that Paizo basically had to go off and create Pathfinder. And they didn't do a public playtest, and their license that they released with 4th edition didn't allow any community content. They did what they seem to be wanting, or tried to do, with the whole open game license thing. And you see a little bit of them trying to follow that same playbook now, and that just hurt them. and that probably maybe killed it more than anything, was simply the lack of a good license that allowed people to make content for it. So anyway, and one of any number of reasons why it didn't work that have nothing to do with the game itself. I think that there's plenty of factors that led to 4th edition's demise that were not game related. It wasn't about the rules. It was about these other things, and including just simply the timing of it and the economy in 2008. The economy was not good. And, maybe people just couldn't afford to be buying a role-playing game. And, if you're not going to be able to play it, then maybe you start bad mouthing it, and then that just kind of propagates out. So anyway, that's just speculation on my part. So yeah, I see I saw Matt Colville's video, and he's talking about that critical role in Stranger Things. And I agree. I think he nailed it, that, Critical Role. I mean, Critical Role was a few years after 5th edition, so I don't know that it's entirely accurate that it's popular. I mean, 5th edition was already pretty popular by the time Critical Role came out. And then Stranger Things was even later. But those pushed it over the top. And when with the pandemic hitting and those things already causing it to accelerate, and then the pandemic hits, and now people are playing this game. And so, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why it took off. I mean, the biggest thing for me I've made some videos on it, and some of the comments that people left on those videos are like, they want to discount it. But, people complain that Dungeons and Dragons is not a very good game, and that because it doesn't do this and it doesn't do that. And it's like, and I've always thought that it's like, but that's, you're looking at it the wrong way. It's not trying to be this great thing. It's doing what it's supposed to do. It's trying to appeal to as many people as possible, so that they have the largest fan base as possible. And they have the brand name Dungeons and Dragons. Everyone knows Dungeons and Dragons. Well, whether you've never played the game before in your life, Dungeons and Dragons. And even if you're playing Pathfinder, you might still call it Dungeons and Dragons, because that's what people, or if you'll call it Pathfinder amongst your people you're playing with. But if you're like talking to somebody who is not familiar with Pathfinder, and they ask, what are you going to do Saturday night? And it's like, you're going to say, we're going to play D&D, even though it's Pathfinder or it's Knave or it's Fate or something else, because people don't know those, but the general population will know D&D. And so they have that name, and the game that they're creating is designed to appeal to as many people as possible. And they've made it simple for people to get engaged with the game and to play it. And that's where they're at. And as a result, they have a game that's super popular. So, a lot of factors go into that. And again, their 4th edition failed for tons of reasons unrelated to the game itself. 5th edition is super popular for many reasons not related to the game itself. There's other factors at play. And just because something sells well doesn't mean that it's great. And just because something sells poorly doesn't mean that it's bad. There's lots of things that go into it. Yeah, Nick, good point about outselling Pathfinder. This came up a couple weeks ago, I think. We were talking about how, the thing that we have to understand when you look at the role-playing game market, and Dungeons and Dragons is like 3/4 of that market. Today, that's what it is. Pathfinder is like 10% of the market. And then all of the rest of it is every other role-playing game out there. And so D&D is 3/4 of the market. So 4th edition selling poorly is because their market share dropped from 3/4 to like 2/3. So, selling poorly does in no mean that they were like second to anybody. It wasn't up to the standards that they're used to. And that really is the issue. So something fourth edition failing does not necessarily mean what some might think it means. I mean, it was still a huge, the largest share of the market, but it wasn't up to par with what they were used to and what they expected for a game with the D&D name. So that's really the issue. Pathfinder was always a much smaller percentage of that. And, so, so, I mean, that's a good way of looking, the public playtest, that it is a double-edged sword. I look at the public playtests as it gets excitement for the game. I think, it benefits the wizards or whoever's doing the playtest in multiple ways. One, it gets excitement for the game out there. So people just see it. They feel like they're in the loop. They're having a say in it. And yeah, maybe it leads to a more generic game. And it's not, but remember, that's what they're after. They want a game that appeals to as many people as possible. So they can make a game where a druid gets this ability, and there's a lot of people that would love that, and there's a lot of people that would hate that. And so, but then there's even more people in the middle that would like it if they change the rule to be this instead. And so they change the rule to that because they want to appeal to that middle that is going to sell as many books as possible, not to the two other extremes that you have. And that's their design, and that's the choice that they've made. And, for the people that are in the middle and are okay with that, that's good. Or the people that wanted the more extreme ones, that's not going to work out. But I think ultimately Wizards is okay with that because from a marketing perspective, that works out better for them. And, but yeah, it's not going to appeal to the people that wanted the other stuff. So I would love to see what would happen if 4th edition came out today. It would be a completely different thing, with where we are with the technology that we have and where we are with the further expansion of video games and the further expansion of just role-playing games in general. I think people would be much more, accepting of a game with the style of play that 4th edition has. And they would be, I don't think that their virtual tabletop that they're putting together, is the right play. I think, you want to talk about video gaming. That's what I see with their virtual tabletop that they're working on right now. I think, more basic tabletop would be just fine, which we have with Roll20. So obviously they've got to create something that's going to compete against that and provide something that Roll20 doesn't. But the technology's there now to do whatever you want to do with it. And I think the world would be much more accepting of 4th edition if it came out today. And you can see that simply from the standpoint that there's so many people nowadays that are seeing what 4th edition was and appreciating it. And I think that's wonderful. So yeah, that's, it'd be interesting to see how that went. Yeah. Magic, I saw some stuff recently with Wizards of the Coast financial information, which it's hard to get. I mean, you can get their total amount of money that they made, but so let's look at this from a percentage perspective. We were talking about how Dungeons and Dragons in the role-playing game space, Dungeons and Dragons has about 3/4 of the market. So they own 3/4 of the market. Within Wizards of the Coast, which is basically Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering blows Dungeons and Dragons out of the water. Magic the Gathering has just ridiculous amounts of money it's bringing in. It's like, I think the company made, what was it? It was like $1.8 billion or something like that in 2022 or something. And Dungeons and Dragons was like 200 million of it or something like that. So, Magic the Gathering is way bigger than Dungeons and Dragons is. It's not even close. And so, yeah, if they're expecting to get Dungeons and Dragons up to those levels, it's just not going to happen. So, I mean, if nothing else, with Magic the Gathering, sure, they have these people that buy the sets, and you're spending hundreds of dollars on these sets when they come out and everything. But beyond that, I mean, there's a lot of people that just buy the cards, and it's, $3 for a pack of cards. And, every once in a while you go and you buy them, and it's just this constant stream of these little micro transactions of $3 here, $3 there for all these card sets that people just buy just for fun. And, cause I was doing that for a while. I never quite got into Magic the Gathering, but I was doing the card thing for a while, and it was kind of neat to get the card sets and open them, and stuff. And it was, and it's fun. And that's this steady stream, cause people are like, $3, I'll spend $3. Yeah, no problem. And without even thinking about it. But when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons, especially now with their model that they have, they only sell these huge books. D&D, there's everything that is out there for Dungeons and Dragons costs $30, $40, $50. There's not this market for things from Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons that is a $3 thing, that is a $5 thing. Everything is expensive. And so they have to nail it and knock it out of the park with every single product they do. And that makes it really difficult to maintain the income. If they had a model with Dungeons and Dragons where they were releasing things that were much more microtransaction like, then they could go a lot further with it. I mean, and just think about that with 4th edition, where they kind of missed the opportunity, because think about the spell cards and the NPC cards that they sell, but you got to buy the whole box of them. What if they sold those as more like Magic the Gathering cards, where you actually collected them, and they were that sort of thing, and you were buying them in packs of $2 or $3 a piece, and you could use them in your D&D game and stuff. Those are the types of things that, D&D doesn't have. Magic the Gathering has it, D&D doesn't have it, and so you're never going to get that sort of level. So yeah, the Magic the Gathering stuff, that was one of the things. I mean, I'm a casual game player, so there's no way I'm going to shell out the money for the entire sets of Magic the Gathering cards. That's just ridiculous amounts of money. And I'm not much of a fan of having to collect. I liked buying the cards. It was kind of neat to get the cards and see which ones you got. I think my biggest problem is that the game is just okay for me. Playing Magic the Gathering is just okay. It's fine, but it's not like it's not something that I like. I don't want to say that I don't look forward to it, but I mean, it's not a chore to play Magic the Gathering, but I'd rather play D&D. I enjoy playing D&D much more, and there's other games I enjoy playing more. Magic the Gathering is just it's an okay card game. It's fine. I would definitely enjoy more collecting the cards and just seeing the things, but I wish the game that went with it was something that I enjoyed more. But for whatever reason, I don't. I know that there's a lot of people that do, and more power to them. It's just not necessarily something for me. So, all right. Tell you what, as promised, I said that we were going to play, the next encounter in Keep on the Shadowfell. So, let's go ahead and do that. Let me get some stuff set up here, because I'm in the, hopefully I don't close something I'm not supposed to close, but I gotta get my game stuff set up here. And let me see how this is going to be. Yeah, I think we're good. So, all right. So let's shift over. So we have been playing Keep on the Shadowfell, and let me go ahead and flip over to this. And I decided last time we played, we went and we did the role playing stuff. We got into Winter Haven and we did some role playing, and the party talked to the tavern owner. They talked to the mayor of the town. They talked to, I think, a couple other people, and kind of settled in and did the typical role playing stuff. So it's a little difficult in this environment to try to play that properly, but we did walk through it to get a feel for role playing in 4th edition. What? Yeah. Role playing in 4th edition. It's a thing. And we did it, and it worked pretty well. So So and then we did that, and then we went and we played the next encounter, which was the Kobold ambush as they left town. We played out the encounter, and I had planned to go further than that, but just the time didn't work out. So I think going forward, I'm gonna probably just aim to do like one encounter per stream, just so we can really be focused on one thing at a time and give it our all. So where we're at now is the party has, after facing the kobolds that ambushed them last week, they returned to Winterhaven and licked their wounds and got some rest and healed up and everything, so that they can set out with all of their powers, all of their hit points, and ready to go and take on the next kobold encounter here. So they were given information from the mayor, who had learned where these kobolds were stationed, where their home base was, and drew them a map to get them to that location. And that's where this next encounter takes us. This is just outside their lair, and they're approaching from. I can go ahead and put the small map up here. So the party is basically approaching from the left side of this, the west side of this map here, and there's a row of trees, and then there's a whole bunch of kobolds out there. And so you can kind of see that there's more. Now, if we were actually playing this, I would not put all these tokens on the board just yet, because we would be doing perception checks to see if the party sees the kobolds and which kobolds they're going to see. And we would be doing some strategizing and things like that. So, but for our purposes here, I just put everything out there so that we can all see it and look at it together. So, but let's take a look at the encounter itself. So the setup for this kind of just talks about how we got this information. How did we get this far? Which I said, we got the map from the mayor, who sent us in this direction to where the kobolds base of operations is. And it mentions that you shouldn't put the kobolds on the map. You should let the players do perception checks and compare that against the stealth of the different kobolds to see which ones they're able to see versus which ones are hidden. It provides tactics for the dragon shields and the skirmishers, and saying they basically allow the minions to act first, and then they'll try to take up positions around the circle. And I'll get to the circle in a second here. And then there's a dragon shield inside that circle, and he tries to hold position in the circle. The skirmisher, meanwhile, tries to get into a flanking position with the minions against the party. So that's the tactics that are going to be followed here. Oh, and it mentions the slinger is going to attack from a distance. It does mention also that if things start to take a turn, then the slinger will actually try to warn the kobolds that are inside the lair that the party is coming. So that'll come into play during the next encounter, where we actually will move inside the lair. But for now, that's kind of a piece of information for the dungeon master to keep in mind, that obviously if the slinger gets dealt with early, then that is not necessarily something that's going to happen. But if this encounter starts to look like it's going to be a loss and the slinger's still around, then they might provide a warning for the kobolds inside the lair for the next time. And then we get our monster stat blocks. So the features of the area is where it talks about the sacred circle. There's old magic runes and that are glowing inside the circle. And let me go ahead and flip over to the other map so you can see this a little bigger. So you can see that there's this circle that the one dragon shield is inside of. And those runes actually provide a bonus to anyone inside them. So the features of the area indicate that any creature standing on the runes or in the center of the circle gets a +1 bonus on their attack roll. So the dragon shield is going to set up camp inside that circle and try not to move. And then other creatures and even the characters can try to move into the circle. All they have to do is be touching those runes, standing on one of the squares with a rune, and they will get a bonus to their attack. So definitely something to keep in mind. It mentions that the trees do not hamper movement, so they're not difficult terrain, but they do provide cover. So right now where the party is, they do have cover from the monsters. And so that's something that could come in handy. Similarly, the river is shallow, and it says it doesn't hamper any movement. So only the parts that have rocks are difficult terrain, and then the part where the waterfall is, which is kind of hidden behind the initiative order there. So, but there's a waterfall over there that is also difficult terrain. So, and then it does mention what kind of treasure they get at the end of this. So that's the setup for the encounter, and to kind of keep things simple this time around, I went ahead and rolled initiative for everyone so we've got the initiative order on the screen so that we can just jump right into the encounter without needing to take time to roll initiative. So as it stands, the Kobold minions are the ones that are going to go first. And just to kind of show you, we have quite a few of them. There are actually 10 minions here that are going to go. I'm gonna actually keep this simple for this round though, because I don't want to. I feel like the minions are ones that we're going to say that they're not really terribly aware of the party, because some of them are pretty far away. This water is moving, and I'm just, some of this is more just me trying to keep it simple for the purposes of the stream. But so we've got a bunch of minions down here that are further downstream. They're probably not aware of the party. And then these ones over here by the waterfall likely are not necessarily paying attention. I might indicate that a couple of these are watching the trees and maybe they see some movement, but I'm going to actually skip the minions in the first round, because I feel like as minions, I don't want this whole encounter to get bogged down with having to deal 10 minions right away. So I'm going to save them for the second round and see how many of them are left. And then we'll deal with them then. So, not necessarily realistic, but for the purposes of doing it on the stream, that's how I'm going to treat this. So let me, I've got to shift to the next in the encounter order. So that being said about the minions, now we're going to get to the dragon shield. So the dragon shield is standing inside that circle and is very much all the party has cover from behind these trees. And let's take a look and see what the dragon shield has as far as weapons. So the dragon shield just has a short sword, and it has the ability to shift. And it gets a +1 bonus whenever there's an ally adjacent to the target. But it only has the short sword, and because the tactics indicate that the dragon shield is going to want to stay inside this circle, then I don't think the dragon shield is actually going to do anything in this round. So the dragon shield, even if it sees the party, is at most it's going to kind of take up a stance to just kind of be ready for something. Now we could go fancy and say that they're going to ready in action or delay, but I'm not going to go through that for this particular encounter. So we'll just kind of skip over the dragon shield, and that will get us to the party, so we can have a look at what our party members are going to do, and that moves us to Lyra. So let's take a look at Lyra and see what she can do. So. And there she is. So Lyra, just for reference, is right here. She is behind the trees. She has cover, but she has 6 squares of movement, so she could move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She could move as far as like over here. She could move down here. So she's got quite a bit of movement that she has of where she could go. And she has her bonus features that she has. She's got sneak attack, so if she's got combat advantage, she's going to get a +2d8 for her damage, which is quite good. And she gets a bonus with her dagger, but that's already factored into her attack bonus. So really for her at this stage, it really kind of boils down to an at-will power, probably Sly Flourish. I don't think there's any benefit really in any of the other powers at this point. So I think we'll probably keep this simple and we'll just go with Sly Flourish as her power. So she's going to go next, and then we'll do the other two monsters. So while we're doing that, if anybody has thoughts on what they would want, like Keldrek is our next hero that's going to go. So I'll run through what Lyra is going to do. She's going to do Sly Flourish. As we get closer to Keldrick's turn, if anybody's got thoughts on what they want Keldrick to do, feel free to put those into the chat, and I will I'll be looking at those along the way. So yeah, so that's what we're going to do there. So Lyra is going to do Sly Flourish, and she's going to need to move into position here. Let me see where she can go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She can't actually get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She can get adjacent to this one minion. So she's going to move over to this minion over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that puts her next to this one minion. So I just feel like she's going to probably want to try to be in a flanking position with the Dragon Shield before she tries anything. So let her do this one first. And then with Sly Flourish, it's going to be a +8 versus armor class. So we'll go ahead and roll that. 11 + 8 is a 19 versus the minion's armor class of 15. So that is definitely a hit for that minion. And being a minion, that means that it is a hit, and that's the end of that minion. So that makes that one pretty straightforward. So she's done her move, she's done her attack, and she has taken out one of the minions. So that is Lyra's turn, which brings us to our Kobold Slinger. So the Kobold, the tactics for the Slinger indicates that it's just going to shoot from a distance, and that was the one where if things got a little crazy, it might might shout a warning to those inside. So looking at the Slinger's stats, it has a sling that it can fire. It also has special shot, so it carries 3 rounds of special shot. It deals normal damage, but then has an additional effect. So it has 1 stink pot and 2 glue pots. So we'll decide if it wants to do one of those, which I think it will. I think now that Lyra has moved where she has, it's going to use its sling along with we'll say one of the glue pots, because that can immobilize the target, which could be pretty good. So that is going to be a +6 versus Lyra's armor class, and it has a range of 10/20, so it's well within range. Yeah, so we're going to do, let's go ahead and roll that one. So +6 versus armor class against Lyra. 11 + 6 is 17, and Lyra's armor class is a 16. So that is going to hit. So very nicely done for our Kobold friend there. And the damage on the straight damage, 1d6 + 3, but then the glue pot is going to immobilize Lyra. So that'll be nice. Well, it'll be nice for the Kobold, not for Lyra. So 1d6, 4 + 3 damage. So Lyra has taken 7 points of damage. And I think that so there we go. So we got Lyra's damage on there as well. 7 points of damage for Lyra, and that Slinger is not going to move because it says the Slinger is going to stay where they are. So that Slinger is good. Next, we have our Skirmisher. Our Skirmisher, sorry, is up here, kind of out of the way. Our Skirmisher is way up there. And the tactics for the Skirmisher is trying to flank with one of the minions. So there's not anyone that's actually in a position to flank yet, but I think that Skirmisher is going to move a little bit closer. The weapon that the Skirmisher has to do damage is a spear, And they deal plus 1d6 damage on melee and range attacks against any target that it has combat advantage against. So that's a nice bonus for them. It also gets a bonus for any allies that are adjacent. It can shift 1 square as a minor action. So it has quite a few things that it can do. So it's just going to move a little bit closer. So let me see where this one could move. 1, 2, 3. I think I'm just going to move the skirmisher just kind of a little more in range with maybe we put it like right there. So that gets the skirmisher in position. It does not have a ranged attack. It only has the spear, which is a melee attack. But because the tactics say that it's going to try to stay in try to get combat advantage, I'm gonna live into that and let it do that. So I do need to make a note that Lyra is immobilized. That's something important. So all right, there we go. So that is our skirmisher. We are moving along, and we are to Keldric. So we got through the monsters quickly, trying to move through the monsters fairly quickly. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the monsters. I'm mostly interested to see what the heroes can do. So Keldric definitely should try to get into that circle. So I think we'll so where Keldric is now, I think Keldric could just go straight on and face off against that dragon shield, and then let Lyra. Eventually, Lyra can move into a flanking position with that dragon shield and Keldric, and have combat advantage as well. So certainly on her turn, she can do that. So let me just pull up Keldric's sheet real quick here, and we'll just take a glance at it and see which. So we've got Holy Strike, we got Valiant Strike. So Holy Strike's 1d8 radiant damage, and marks if you he's got Divine Challenge as a minor action, so he can mark the target. So we'll definitely mark the target as a minor action, and then probably just do Holy Strike, because it'll get a bonus for the damage on the attack. So that's what we'll do for Keldric. He's going to move. So let me flip back over here. So Keldric is going to just move straight ahead and engage with this dragon shield head on, and then is going to do his Holy Strike to deal radiant damage, and then and get a bonus to the damage roll, because he also is going to do Divine Challenge to mark this target, and then it'll be a +7 versus armor class for Keldric. So, and of course Keldric comes up short. 5 + 7 is only going to be 11 against the armor class of this dragon shield, which is much higher than that, which is an 18. So unfortunately he is going to miss on that, and that's not so great. So yeah, it's a good point that those minions are pretty close there. So that might not be a great idea for. I don't know that he could have moved close enough to provide much protection to Lyra anyway. So anyway, we'll play it out and see how it goes. So that was Keldric. He moved. He tried his attack, but the dice were not in his favor. So he's now just standing face to face with a dragon shield and hoping that Lyra could get into position to attack. But now it is Ilara's turn. Ilara is back over here. So this is our wizard here. And I think she, based on the poll results, oops, crap. Hang on a second. My chat just went down. Technical difficulties. Give me just a second. Okay, there we go. So it looks like most people wanted Alara to use sleep as her daily spell. So she's got sleep, and that's what she will use. So that's available to her as a daily spell. She also has her at-will powers, of course, Magic Missile, Ray of Frost, Scorching Burst. Let me flip over to here. We'll have a glance there. Let's see what Alara wants to do. Let's see. Yeah, Haldor. So okay, good. Yeah, so we got a plan for Haldor. So yeah, if ideally if if you have thoughts about the characters who are coming up next in the turn, that would be ideal, so that we can plan ahead, because there is a bit of a delay between the chat and what we're doing. So yeah, so I like that we're planning for Haldor now, so that we can that's something I'll take into consideration. So so for Alara, I think Alara is going to keep it simple and do Magic Missile, and she's got a range of 20 on it, 1 creature, 2 plus intelligence modifier, force damage. And we're using the modified version of Magic Missile, so not the original 4th edition one, but what came out with it later on, where it does auto hit. And I think the natural thing here would be to try to deal with one of those minions again. So so we'll just go ahead and do that. I think that probably makes the most sense for Alara. So again, Alara is right here. She is not going to move at all, but she is going to go ahead and attack this minion with Magic Missile. Magic Missile auto hits, so as a result, that one is going to be dealt with. So that's one less minion nearby to Lyra to have to worry about. So that is Alara's turn. Now we're at Haldor. So I seem to recall in the chat we had Haldor wanting to do a charge. So number 9. Oh, so well, 9 is already dealt with, so we can't charge 9. Well, let's see. What's our next best thing? If while we're working on Haldor, if anybody has thoughts on Therian, please go ahead and put those in the chat as well, so we can kind of be a little head of the curve. So Therian, just for note, is our cleric who is back here. But right now it is Haldor's turn, and so we want Haldor to do a charge. And I think so if we do, so Haldor can either move and try to get into a position in front of Lyra to protect her, or actually I don't think he needs to. I think Haldor is just going to go after this dragon shield. I feel that Haldor is just going to want to just go full on at the dragon shield here. I don't think he's going to want to cross over and go after. He sees that these minions are puny little things, and he's going to want to go after the big ones. So, and he saw Keldric miss earlier, and he's going to need to show Keldric how this is done. So let's do that. And he's going to charge. He'll go ahead and use the charge. So let's go ahead and do it. So 1, 2, 3. So he can go there, and then because he moved at least 2 squares, he is able to do a charge, which is going to give him a +2 on his attack, and he will go ahead and use his I guess Reaping Strike would make the most, because that's going to deal some damage even if he misses. So that probably makes the most sense. So he'll do a Reaping Strike. And then he gets +2 on top of his normal attack. So 11 + 2 is 13 + 6 is 19. against the Dragon Shield has an armor class of 18, so we are good. So that is going to be 2d6 plus 3 damage on this Dragon Shield. 8 plus 3, that's pretty good. That's going to be 11. So nice. We actually finally got some damage going here. So we killed a couple minions, but that's our first meaningful damage against one of the more meaty enemies here. So, oh, is charge is just the basic attack? Okay. So, but it's still 2d6 plus 3. Yeah. Thank you. All right. So that is Haldor. Now we're up to Therian. Did we get any thoughts on Therian? So, I don't see Therian as our cleric, so he does not have. Let's pull him up here and have a look. Nobody's taken any damage yet, so there's no need for that. Lyra is immobilized. She's not going to be able to move into a flanking position. I forgot about that, so she's not. I was thinking that she was going to be able to move to flank, but she's not going to be able to do that with the immobilization. So, Therian has Lance of Faith, which can grant a power bonus on an attack roll. That can come in handy. We could give that to Keldrek. Sacred Flame. Someone can either get temporary hit points or make a saving throw. There we go. So Sacred Flame would allow, he could attack, and then also, if he's successful, can grant a saving throw to Lyra. So so it needs to move a little closer, but I think we can do this. So one ally that you can see. So he doesn't have to be that close to a Lyra. He's just got to be in range against the target. So that's the way we're going to go there. I think that one makes sense. So, and then after Therian, we're going to get the Kobolds, and then it's going to be Lyra's turn again. So hopefully we'll see if this save works out where she won't have to, she won't be immobilized anymore. So let's give it a go. All right. So Therian, let's see, he's got to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. He only has to move forward a little bit. So that actually, just moving right there puts him within 5 of this Dragon Shield. So it's going to be a +3 versus reflex versus the Dragon Shield's reflex. The Dragon Shield's reflex is a 13. So +3 versus 13. Let's have a look and see how it goes. There we go. Rolled a 13, +3 on top of that, 16 versus the reflex of 13. That is going to be a hit. So that'll do 1d6 plus 3 radiant damage. Let's deal with that first. 1d6, so 3 plus 3, that's 9 radiant damage against the Dragon Shield. We're looking pretty good. Believe it or not, that Dragon Shield is actually bloodied now. So we're making pretty quick work of this Dragon Shield. So it can only go downhill from here. And then because he can see Lyra, Lyra gets to do a saving throw. So I believe a saving throw is a straight D20. And anything, is it anything above 10 or does it include 10? Let's see. I always get confused on the 10 or higher. So, okay. So, and a +3 save. Sorry, let me just see. Well, let me go ahead and roll it. $14. Nailed it. So, all right, good. She is no longer immobilized, which is perfect because now she is in a position she can actually move into a flanking position. However, now we have the minions to deal with. Now we've got a lot of minions. I wasn't sure if I didn't see that it said that the And one ally you can see chooses to either gain temporary hit points equal to your charisma modifier plus 1/2 your level, or to make a saving throw. I didn't see anything that indicated that that +3 would apply to the saving throw. It doesn't matter. She made the save anyway, just straight. So I think we're good. So, but now we're dealing with all these minions, and let's see what they're going to do. So the minions are going to try to just go to the closest. They clearly can see Lyra, they can see Keldric, they can see Haldor, and I think that's where they're going to go. So let me pull up I'll pull up their stat block so we can see it. They've got a speed of 6. And yeah, I think Lyra is just about to get bombarded by these minions. So let's see how this goes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, I moved the wrong one. 5. Oh, he's going to go there. So he can't move any further. So we'll go with that one. And we'll just take these one at a time. So this one is going to do spear and gets a +5 versus armor class. Lyra's armor class is a 16. So let's see how this one goes. Oh, that is how this always goes. Just when you think you've got a plan and it's like, it's just a minion, and they're going to roll a 20 on us. So nat 20. So that's going to be, and that would have been a hit. So it's going to be a full damage for the minion for the spear. So, it's just 4. So it's 4 damage anyway. So it doesn't really make much difference anyway. So that's going to do 4 damage on Lyra. She had actually been the only one that took damage. So now she's down to 14 hit points. And let's see what other minions we got here. So this one, oh boy. So 1, 2, 3. So now we've got 2, 3. So now number 7 is coming in, and he's basically going to do the same thing. So this has the potential to be a bad day for Lyra. Oh, we got exact opposite. We got a 20 on one and a natural 1 on the other one. So that's awesome. Okay. Next one is I'll go with number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So number 6 can get there, and is right there. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the ones that are that we've already dealt with, so that they're not clogging up our screen here. So there we go. So number 6 doing the same thing with the spear. 12 plus 5 against Lyra's armor class. That is going to hit. And that's going to be another 4 damage on Lyra. So she's starting to feel it now. This is not going so well for her. But I think most of these other ones are going to be out of range. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this one can get there. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this one could get there. And man, they're just having all kinds of luck with this. This is where minions can really do their thing. So she is down to 6 hit points. She is definitely bloodied, and so she's going to need some healing in the near future. But let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this one is going to move as well, because not only can he get in position, he can actually be... Oh, no, he wouldn't be flanking. Never mind. I take that back. Oh, he would be flanking Lyra now. So he's going to get a +2 bonus on his. That's a good point. Maybe number... well, 5 has already attacked Lair, but I wonder if 4 should have attacked Haldor. But we're just going to go with it. We don't need to... I don't want to linger too long on it. So, but he's going to get a +2 because he has... Man. Lyra is about to be down. She is down to two hit points now. If anything that's going her way though is that everybody else is out of range of Lyra. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, wrong one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going after Haldor. Haldor, at least he's got full health and he's got some decent defenses. So let's have a look. Well, the reason they were all attacking her is I think the first ones were because she was the closest. So I felt like she was the closest one. Number 4 was probably borderline. I think 4 maybe could have gone after Haldor, but I think he was just kind of ganging up on where he saw everybody else going. So that was my logic behind why they were all going after Lyra, just simply because she was the closest enemy. But number 1 is going to go after Haldor because Lyra's out of range, and this is now he's the closest enemy. So 12 plus 5 is 17. That is going to hit, so Haldor is going to get some damage as well. Haldor is down to 27. And number 2 is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it said that the trees are not difficult terrain. So this one is going to be able to move all the way up here. Again, just going after the closest one that they can see. 13 plus 5 is 18. Also a hit. Wow. These minions, they are on it. They are getting it done. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. Number 3 can make it there too. Oh, number 3 cannot make it there because the rocks are difficult terrain. I might have messed that up with number 2, but number 3 cannot make it there because it's difficult terrain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's as far as number 3 can go. So there we go. We got through all the minions. And number 3, because of the rocks are difficult terrain, could not actually get there. I missed that with the other 2, so they might not have been able to get there, but we're just going to go with it. So that might have been an oversight on my part, but anyway, there we go. So minions are done. Now it's the Dragon Shield's turn. I think Dragon Shield's going straight after Keldrick, so let me pull up the Dragon Shield. Got a short sword, +7 versus armor class. Keldrick's armor class is a 20. So this is going to have to be a good roll. Let's see what we get. 15 plus 7 is 22. So that is going to hit. And the damage on that one is going to be 1d6 plus 3. Oops. Cool. So just 4 damage. But the target is marked until the end of the next turn. So I'll take care of that. So we got Keldrick has 4 damage and is also marked. And that is the Dragon Shield. And we are now looking at and we're back to Lyra. Now Lyra, this didn't go as I was hoping, because Lyra now has her hands filled with a bunch of minions, and man, if this was Haldor, it'd be perfect because Cleave would be awesome right here. Now, if she shifts, she can actually be flanking. Oh, she'll get knocked out though. She's only got 2 hit points left, so there's no way that she's gonna survive if she gives up an opportunity attack. And so sorry, my one character card went away there. There we go. So I don't think Lyra Action point. Yep, good point. So, so if she so she does a shift. So her shift would be her move action. Okay. If she shifts, she can shift and be in flanking position on the dragon shield and not give up an opportunity attack. And then she can use her sneak attack against, because she'll have combat advantage then, because she'll be flanking that dragon shield with Haldor. And she'll have combat advantage and can then deal extra damage if she's successful. Now, if she's not, she needs to get to Therian. Can't get here fast enough for her. So that's the challenge that she has. But I think that probably makes the most sense for her now, because she can shift and at least try to do something before she goes down all the way. So I think we'll run with that. All right. So Lyra is going to shift here. And then that's going to give her combat advantage against this dragon shield now that she's flanking. And she can, yes, good point. We can action point. Very good. So we'll do, she also had Deft Strike. Well, that was just a move. That's not a shift. So I think we're going with Sly Flourish then. So we'll keep it simple for now. Try to use just the at-will power. So Sly Flourish, +8 versus the armor class of the Dragon Shield, which is 18, but we're going to get a +2 on top of that. So let's go ahead and do that. That's perfect. So 18, it'd be a +2, which makes it a 20, and then it's a +8 on top of that. So no problem hitting with it. That's going to be 1d4 +7 damage +2d8 we're going to get. So let's go ahead and roll all of those. Let me get rid of that. Roll 1d4 +2d8 for the sneak attack. 2, 6 damage +7. So that's 13 damage against that dragon shield. That dragon shield is very close to being done. So that's excellent there. So that accomplished that. Now she can do a second wind. And what's her second? What is she going to be able to do with the second wind? Can she just let me see. 291. See what our options are. I guess the healing surge would be the best thing for her. She gets. Oh, it's not a choice. Okay, so she gets to spend a healing surge and gets +2 on her defenses. Okay, I missed that part. I knew it was the healing surge. Okay, cool. So she's going to do a healing surge. That healing surge is going to give her 6 hit points back. That is super helpful for her. It's not enough to get her back from being bloodied, but that is going to be super helpful. And then she only has so she's only got 6 of those left, so that's fine. So, and then she gets a +2 on her defenses. That will come in handy. She will need that very soon. All right, so I think we're good with Lyra. That was perfect. Oh, okay, and that was her action point also, right? So she used her action point to do that. Yeah, so she used her action point to do a standard action. So her action point is gone. All right, now we're done with Lyra. Kobold Slinger. Tactics for the Kobold Slinger, again, are that it's going to try to just stay and attack remotely The Kobold Slinger is, let me move this so we can, you got it up there. So this is the Kobold Slinger up here. I mean, honestly, unfortunately for Lyra, that's where it's going to go. The range on the sling is a 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, definitely within range. And then I really think it's going to try to use that glue pot again. So +6 versus Lyra's armor class of 16. So +6 versus 16. Let's see how it goes. All right. Lyra got lucky that time. So that glue pot missed. So that the slinger now only has the one other special shot. It has a stink pot, but no more glue pots and no damage for Lyra. So that worked out pretty well. And that slinger is going to stay put. Not going to move anywhere. The skirmisher. The tactics for the skirmisher indicate that it's going to try to flank. So this is not going to bode well for Lyra. So the speed of the skirmisher is a 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So no problem. 1, 2, 3, and it's just going to go right there. Again, just attacking the first one that it can get to, and it's going to be flanking. So it now has advantage, combat advantage, I should say. Sorry, against Lyra. Let's see how it does. So +2, using its spear, which is +6 versus armor class. So it's going to be a +8 versus Lyra's armor class of 16, I believe. So +8 versus 16. Let's see how we do. Oh, she's so lucky. Oh, she has a +2. You're right. So she got lucky anyway. She needed all the help she could get there. So that actually is only going to be a plus. That's going to be like a 10, I think, or plus. That'd be a 12. But she's got now a 20 armor class because of that +2 to defense. So she somehow, despite only having 8 hit points left and dealing with 2 attacks from these other monsters, somehow managed to make it through that. So I don't know how that even was possible, but she made it work. All right, we are at Keldrick. Keldrick now is flanking this. No, he's not flanking, but he is face to face with Dragon Shield. I think, no question, he is going to just do a straight. We'll just do a straight Valiant Strike. Nothing fancy here, and let's hope that we get this. So let's do that. Let's do his Valiant Strike for Keldrick. 11 plus 7 is 18 versus Dragon Shield, which is 18. So it hits. And then we're going to get 1d8 plus 4 damage. 8 plus 4, that's 12 damage. This Dragon Shield did not have that many hit points left, so he is done. And then I'm going to go ahead and get that Dragon Shield out of here just so it's not taking up the screen. So there we go. That Dragon Shield is done. That was one of the heftier. We got all these minions to deal with, but we just got to get some successful hits. And this is where Haldor can kind of come in here. Haldor's in a great position right now, by the way. So that was Keldrick. And I saw some suggestions for Alara. So Alara can move Magic Missile if she action points. Good call. I'll go for it. Yeah. So Alara has Magic Missile. She can use her action point and go after 2 of them. I think probably I think from a strategy perspective, since Haldor he's got cleave, so he's got 2 right here, but he can cleave. So I think she's probably more concerned about these ones that are near Lyra. So that probably is the way to go. So let's just go ahead and do that. So she is going to magic missile number 4 and number 0 here is her plan. And since they auto hit, that pretty much just she'll use up her action point, but that's going to take care of both of them. So I'll go ahead and mark them, and then I'm going to get them out of here to clean up the battle map. There we go. Ilara has used her action point. Cool. Making progress. And then we get to Haldor. Now, Haldor is in the position that you want Haldor to be in, and that is because Haldor has cleave. So he is, if he can hit, then he can take out both of those minions with his hit. So I think pretty clearly that is where he's going to go with this. So let's just jump right into it. So Haldor is going to attack number 1 with a +6 versus the armor class of 15. So +6 versus 15. Let's see what we get. +6 versus 15. Just made it, but it doesn't matter. You know, still makes it. So that's going to hit number 1. And number 1 is going to take the damage to knock him out. And then because it was cleave, it's going to deal 3 damage to a target that's adjacent, which means that number 2 is also taken out. So there we go. That is exactly why we have Haldor here. So there we go. We're going to take and get rid of them. And now this battle is starting to look a little more manageable. And Therian is up. We got our cleric, and boy, Lyra could not be happier that we have our cleric here. I think we need healing word is what we need here. So Therian is a burst 5, so I think he's got a, let's see, 1. So we're good. It's just 1 ally. Healing surge, and then 1d6 hit points on top of that. So I think that's our best option. So, and it has an encounter. So Therian is going to do that, and we'll roll a 1d6. And let's see what we get. Jeez. So that's not ideal, but her surge is 6, and then she gets an extra 1. That's a 7, so she's up to 15. Yeah, so she used a healing surge there. So she's not actually bloodied anymore, though. So that actually moved her from being bloodied. It's not great, but not terrible. So that takes care of Therian. I don't think there's anything else he needs to do. That was a minor action. Oh, that was just a minor action. So he actually could do something else. So I'm thinking, we could do Sacred Flame and 1 creature versus reflex. That might not be bad. Lance of Faith. Yeah, let's do that one. Let's do Lance of Faith. So Lance of Faith, 1d8 +3 against, and then an ally gets a +2 bonus on their next attack. I think we'll go with that one. I'm tempted to do Sacred Flame again, but I think we'll do Lance of Faith. Since we got Lyra at least something back, I think we're going to go with Lance of Faith. So this one is a 1 creature, 5 away. Let's go ahead and do 1, 2, 3. We'll do it on our skirmisher here. So I think that's what we'll do. +3 versus reflex. Let's see what we get. 3 reflex is 13. We did it. Okay, so that's 13 against the 13. That's exactly what we needed. So 1d8 plus 3 damage. Oh my god, what is with the damage here? So that's 4 damage against this skirmisher. Okay, that's not great. And then I think who gets the bonus here? We'll do the bonus against, or we'll give the bonus to their next attack to, I guess Keldrick. Let's do Keldrick. Okay, there we go. Keldrick gets a +2 on his next attack. He's going to go after Lyra, but Lyra is going to. I think Lyra is going to shift. So let me go ahead and move. I think we're done with Therian. So next up is Lyra. What do we want Lyra to do? Let me see. She could shift to try to move away from these minions, which probably makes sense for her. You know, I think it might make sense for her to move and just try to reach safety. So if she does, she could shift to get out of, well, she can't actually get out of direct line. But if she does a, what is it, or like a retreat or something. Let's see. Escape. That's the one I was looking for. Oh, she still has to do a check. Oh, that's for a grab. That's not the same thing. Run. No. I don't see a good option for her to... She can shift and then... Yeah. That's what she'll do. She's going to shift. I got it. Her at-will power is Deft Strike. She's going to shift to get away from here so she doesn't provoke an opportunity attack. And then she's going to use Deft Strike because that'll allow her to move 2 squares further and kind of get out of the way. And she can use a ranged attack with that one. So I think that's the way she wants to go. So the first thing she's going to do is shift, which is her move action. And that gets her out of away from opportunity attacks. And then by using Deft Strike, she can move 2 squares before she makes an attack. So let me flip back to the other screen here so we can actually see this. So Deft Strike, she's going to shift to move away from those folks, and then by using Deft Strike she will move 2 squares, and then she can make a ranged attack against the skirmisher, and her ranged attack is going to be a +8 versus armor class. So the skirmisher's armor class is a 15. She gets +8. Let's see. +8. 14 plus 8 is going to be a 22 against 15. That is going to hit. So very nice. And then 1d4 plus 4 damage. 2 plus 4, 6 damage against the skirmisher. That worked pretty well considering the situation she was in with her hit points, and she had kind of hung herself out there. I kind of made some mistakes early on with her rushing into the fray, so that wasn't really the best strategy. But she somehow survived, and now she's got some protection because she's got Keldrick and Haldor in front of her. So that worked pretty well. Deft Strike definitely came in handy there. So, and the Dragon Shield is gone. Oh, sorry, I didn't get to I didn't update the initiative tracker. Sorry about that. And now it's the slinger's turn. So now the slinger, though, has to pick somebody else because because Lair's not around. So the next closest person for the slinger is going to be Keldrick. So I think that sling is probably going to be the way. And yeah, so it's going to use its last special shot, which is what its stink pot. It doesn't have any more glue pots, so it's going to use its stink pot. So the sling is going to be a +6 versus Keldrick's armor class. So let's see how that goes. Just for reference, Keldrick's armor class is a 20. So let's see what we get. Oh man, well, that's going to hit. And then the damage is going to be a 1d6 plus 3. All right, so at least the monsters are rolling poorly as well. So that's going to be 4 points of damage. But he's got the stink pot, so he's going to take a -2 penalty on his next attack roll. So, but that's okay. I think that's perfectly fine. So Keldrick, 4 points of damage, and that's not bad. So, all right. And then the skirmisher, let's see what the skirmisher's got up their sleeve. Oh, let me make a note on Keldrick. Oh, Keldrick had a +2 on his next attack, which means with the basically this just negated that. So that actually worked out even better because that pot really just brought him back down to his regular attack. So things are looking good. What could go wrong at this point, right? So the skirmisher now is supposed to try to find a flanking opportunity, but there's really no flanking opportunities right now. So I think its most likely scenario is it's just going to go after Keldrick with its spear. And that's really about what it's going to do. So it's going to move just this one spot. That's not a charge because it's just moving one square, and it's just going to attack with its spear. +6 versus armor class of 20. And let's see how that goes. Not going to hit. That gives it a 10 versus an armor class 20. That is going to miss. And so that is it for the skirmisher. And now Keldrick gets his turn to go. And I think we're at a point now where Keldrick is going to want to do something a little more substantial. And I think this might be a good spot for what the heck. I think we're going to do Paladin's Judgment. So let me go ahead and pull that up here. So they're starting to make some progress here. Keldrick's got the adrenaline flowing, and he's just ready to just go crazy on this skirmisher that just tried to stab him. So I think Paladin's Judgment is right what he's thinking about. And that's going to be a +7 versus the armor class of the skirmisher. The skirmisher's got an armor class of 15. So let's go ahead and see how this plays out. Oh, man, just a little overconfidence. So he doesn't hit, but an ally within 5 squares gets to spend a healing surge. I think obviously Lyra is the one that needs the healing surge the most. So he didn't get to do all the damage, but Lyra will spend another healing surge, which actually is going to put her pretty close to being full strength. So healing surge is going to be a 6. That's going to get her back. She's actually pretty close to fully healed now. So, but he's going to use his action point. And I think at this point, he'll just do his Valiant Strike. But Valiant Strike. So he gets a +7, +1 for every enemy adjacent to to him. And he's got Lyra and Haldor adjacent to him. So he's going to get a +9 versus the armor class. So let's give this a try. See how this goes. 13 + 9 is going to be 22 versus the skirmisher's armor class of 15. So that is definitely going to hit. 1d8 +4 damage. Oh, I swear every damage roll that I've had is a 1. So that's going to be 5 points of damage against the skirmisher, which does the skirmisher is now bloodied. So that's something. But so it was mildly productive. I think we are at Alara now. I think Alara clearly sees the opportunity to just deal with these next 2 minions. No question there with her actions. So that auto hits. So she is going to take care of this one. And then she's going to likewise take care of that one. So she is doing her part and cleaning the battlefield. Oh, sorry. She would be 5. I didn't realize 5 was still there. So she will take care of this one, not that one. Okay, so she is helping to get rid of some of the more minor ones, and that's about as. Actually, let me think about that. What else does she have? So that she. Oh, sorry, she couldn't do 2 of those. Why did I get rid of both of those? She already used her action point. I take that back. Sorry. Yep, you got me. So, sorry about that. So she got rid of 1, but not the other. So, so she doesn't have, and that was her standard. So yeah, I don't think there's anything else that she can do. Okay. So little mistake there, but we fixed it. We're good. Now we're back to Haldor. Haldor, see, he's got cleave opportunities now. He could move all the way over here and try to get both of those, but I think it makes more sense for him to be here because then he can try to get the. I wonder if he can he flank? Oh man. Yeah. So if he. Well, we'll keep it simple. He's going to move right there. And then he's going to use cleave on. He's going to use cleave. He'll attack the skirmisher and then try to take out the minion as well. So +6 versus armor class of 15. +6 versus 15. 19 versus 15, that is a hit. That is going to do 2d6 +3 damage. Oh yeah, now we're talking. 13. That is how you do that. So that takes out the skirmisher, and it's going to take out this minion here because it's going to deal 3 damage to that minion. So both of them are now gone. Loving it. All right. At this point is probably where the slinger over here, if we remember the tactics, this slinger was going to, if things started to look dire, was going to call out to the people that are actually in the lair. So I think that's probably the point where this slinger is going to do that pretty soon. So then we got Therian. How are we looking on hit points? Everyone's looking pretty good on hit points, though. So I think this is a point where Therian maybe could do something a little more substantial here. What else does he have that could... Healing strike. Nobody. Well, Keldra could use some healing, and Haldor needs some healing too. So yeah, we're going to go. So Therian has Healing Strike as his encounter power, which does 2d8 damage, and the target is marked, and the an ally gets to spend a Healing Surge. So I think Therian is going to do that, and would let we'll decide who gets to spend a Healing Surge if we're successful here. So if he misses, then it doesn't really matter. So we'll give it a try though. So and he's going to try to do it against. Oh, it's a melee. I don't think he can get there. Never mind. I was going to have him do it against this guy here, but it's a melee attack. Had a great plan too. I don't really want him to get too close to things. Let's just do Lance of Faith. It's a ranged 5, and we'll just do it against a minion. So let me just move a little closer just to get within range, and we'll just do Lance of Faith against this minion here. +3 versus reflex. The reflex of the minion is 13. So that will succeed. That will take care of that minion. So we got another one knocked out of the fight. And we will give Keldrek a +2 on their next attack. Will be where we go with that. So Keldrek gets a +2 on their next attack. So we're flying along here. And then we are back to Lyra. Lyra now can go after this minion down here. So let's see what she's got. We'll just keep this Sly Flourish, +8 versus armor class. I think because a charge would just be a basic attack, which is just a +5. But here she's going to get +8. So she'll do Sly Flourish, +8 versus armor class. Let's see how that goes. +8. Oh, man. No dice. She has already spent her action point, so she does not have an action point remaining. And Sly Flourish was her standard action, so I don't think she's got anything else that she can do, which is unfortunate. So, and the Kobold Slinger, I think the Kobold Slinger is also going to just kind of go after the closest person. So that Kobold Slinger is calling out to everyone inside the lair that, hey, there's some people out here. It's not looking good. We're holding them off, but it doesn't look like we're going to get it done. So, but he's going to fire his sling at Therian, because Therian looks to be the closest person. +6 versus armor class. Let's see how that one goes. No problem. So that is not going to hit with Therian. So must be getting a little nervous with the battle turning against them as quickly as it did here. So that Kobold actually now is going to start moving away and is going to go into the it is going to run into the lair. So that Kobold is on their way, basically abandoning this last minion sitting out here. And then that leaves Keldrek to try to deal with this minion. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't quite get there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to do 5. It's going to go there. And then it's going to give up an opportunity attack. He's going to, so that's 5. And then in order to get here, he's got to keep moving, but that's going to give up an opportunity attack to the minion. So, but he wants to get in flanking. He wants to flank with Lyra. So the opportunity attack is going to be a +5 versus his armor class. His armor class is a 20 though. So he is not so concerned about that. 19 versus 20. So no problem. He makes it. And now he is up here against this minion. And all he has to do is hit So he'll just, and he gets a +2 on this attack as well. So he'll use his Valiant Strike, and which is going to be a +7, +1 per enemy adjacent to you, which he has 1. So that's going to be a +8, +2 on top of that. That's going to be a +10 versus the armor class. 9, that's 19. The armor class of the minion is only a 15. So this minion is now done. And just like that, they have dealt with everybody outside this lair. The slinger, who stayed in the outer range forever, is now retreating into the lair. So we'll actually, when we play the next encounter next week, it'll be a couple weeks. Actually, we won't have a stream next week. That slinger will actually be inside the lair. So we will make note of that. So that is how you do that. I think we got a good use of all the different powers. We actually had some pretty good strategy out there as well. So that worked pretty well. Let me pull up the encounter again so that we can take a look at it. So the last little bit on here is that they get some treasure. So if they search the kobolds and everybody, they get 4 gold pieces and 17 silver pieces. So not a lot of treasure to be had with this group, but I think that was pretty successful. So I'm going to play this a little differently than we would in if we were at a table. So I'm trying to do each encounter kind of as an individual encounter. So we'll get them full rest and everything so that we can start every encounter with a full set of powers and everything. I'm not playing this more realistically where they wouldn't get rest in between. So, but this is more kind of a demo of the game and trying to just have some fun with it. So that's our plan there. But there we go. That is this encounter, the Kobold Lair outside. We defeated all the minions. We defeated the skirmisher. We defeated the dragon shield, and we sent the slinger running into the lair. And we had some pretty good strategy along the way. So I think that will do it for this week. Like I said, I am not going to have a stream next week. I'm not available, so I won't be able to do one next week. But then we'll try to pick it up after that. So. But let me know what you thought. How did that go? If you think we should do some things differently, I'd love to hear any feedback that you have, and we can go with that. But I had a great time. I think it was a lot of fun, and I think I appreciate all the feedback from everybody on the different strategy, keeping me honest on some of the rules. That I think I only made a couple mistakes with some things, but that's bound to happen. So. But, had a lot of fun. So appreciated everything. If you like these, please do click that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And, let me know in the comments anything that you would like to see done differently. And, definitely if you want to help out the channel in other ways, check out the links down in the description. That would help me out tremendously. So, and I would really appreciate it. So, but thank you everyone for joining me. Thank you for all the feedback. And, I had a great time. I hope you did too. And I will see you in a couple weeks and we will do this again. So until next time, take care.